Welcome back, everyone. I appreciate y'all being here. We've got an awesome model for y'all today. Check it out. We've got this awesome AI robot that I'm creating for you. Just, masking off the assets of the model right now, just so that we can extrude them out and turn them into their own individual subtools. This is actually going to be a wearable piece of armor whenever it is all done. Next up, we're just going to continue masking off around the body, going on the side of the body here around to the back, and just making sure that we have all the important parts masked off the way that we need to. Geez, I might have needed to censor this just a little bit. All right, continuing on, just refining some of these shapes, and we are going to move on to the legs, down through the thighs and onto the lower legs here pretty quick. Just masking off a little bit of the area around the knees so that we can plan for some knee pads in the future. All right, just control, left click and drag, and then you can also use the lasso tool as well to mask off or unmask what you don't want. Going to continue up along the rib cage. Now we're over to the clavicle and the top of the shoulder, between the neck and the shoulder. Now down to the arms, forearm area, again making room for the elbow, and now these ripped biceps that this model has here for us. All right, cleaning up some of these lines. All right, now we have extracted them and turned them into their own individual subtools so that we can start refining these shapes accordingly. All right, a bunch of stuff we don't care about, except for this. We definitely want to make sure that this armor piece in the backside is definitely in the proper shape. We're going to extrude these out with no sides poly to make sure that we can separate these off, and it is a thin piece of armor. One of the reasons why we are doing this way, you can see that I am separating by extruding, no sides poly, and then auto grouping and splitting the grouping. That way we can have one thin mesh with no structure to it, and there is no visible asset on the back side. All right, now we are moving on to a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter but needs to happen, splitting these off into their own individual subtools. Gotta definitely make sure that these are the right shape. Don't want to expose anything that we shouldn't be exposing whenever we actually print this suit of armor out for wearability. All right, those look like just about the perfect shape. All right, now moving on to the abs, adjusting a few things down here around the waist. Definitely got to make sure that those assets are the right size. All right, moving on to the back. A few more adjustments that don't necessarily matter, that you don't want to see, so we're just going to speed through these real quick. Moving the shoulders using the move tool and the shoulder blades, and down to the forearm area. All right. Now that we have these all situated properly, we are going to move on to some more refinement, just using the move tool, adjusting the shape so that whenever we turn this into a high resolution, everything is where it needs to be. This is just in the zmodeler brush with polyframes on, using the move brush to adjust these pieces properly. Smoothing a few things out here. All right, looking fantastic. Next up are the breasticles, making sure those are in the right spot, and a few more pieces before we continue on with the shaping of the armor. Just got to make sure the key places are at the proper shape. Yes, looks good. Looks good. Oh, a little too far there. All right, we fixed it. Definitely moving on here, speeding through a few things that nobody cares about. All right, right here what I'm doing is just inserting a few more poly loops and splitting these parts up so that we can actually have some defined ab plates. And then I'm just using the highlight and delete in the zmodeler brush to remove the parts of the armor that we do not need. All right, now onto the clavicle. Just trying to accentuate some of the more pronounced body parts around this model. This is actually going to be printed and then connected to a spandex suit that is going to fit real tightly over the model that is going to end up wearing this armor. One thing that I do whenever I am creating armor is I want to make sure that it is not colliding with the body, because after all, this is not a video game character. These are going to be 3D printed and worn by real human beings. This human being is actually going to be playing a AI humanoid robot. So that's why we are creating the armor in this way. It's a female robot, so we definitely want to accentuate some of the female anatomy that we all have come to love and respect. Splitting up the waistband just to allow for movement whenever the cast member is wearing this armor. We definitely want to allow for maximum flexibility. All right, quick little turnaround. Yeah, looking good, looking good. All right, just fixing up some of those beast mode biceps, making sure they're perfectly encased with this armor. A little bit of refinement that nobody cares about. Speeding through here. Making a little bit of space for the elbow so that they can actually articulate their arm properly. We're going to do the same thing around the front side, as you can see there. And now we are highlighting and removing a few pieces after we insert a couple of extra poly loops. And now refining the shape a little bit more. That way, whenever the actor or actress rather moves her arm, she's going to be able to flex her arm properly and show those swole muscles whenever she's wearing this suit. All right, a bit more refinement based upon the reference images I have. All right, what's happening? Ah! Oh my goodness, we removed her head. Man, I hope that comes back soon. What is happening? Oh, okay, we're just creating the jumpsuit. Not that we're going to be 3D printing this, but it's just for visual representation whenever I present the model to the client. All right, you can get the idea here of what's going on. This is essentially the concept of what it would look like whenever it is 3D printed and actually on the actress's body. All right, a few little adjustments here on the bracers. All right, sometimes you can't do it with the move tool. Sometimes it takes the old manual approach. Making a little bit of space here for the elbow. Might be a little bit more space than's needed, but we're going to round off some of these corners and get it looking nice and slick like that AI should be. All right. Few more fine-tuning movements here just to get it in order. All right. Looks like we have a little bit of extra rounding off those corners so that we put it in high resolution mode. It retains its shape and also looks nice and slick. Adding a few extra poly loops here so that it will retain that shape when we go in high resolution mode. Also creasing the edges to retain that overall look that we're looking for. A few little minor adjustments. Very much needed. Want to make sure that this is just looking exactly like they want it to look like. All right. And voila, look at those bicep pieces of armor and those forearm pieces looking fantastic. All right, what in the world? Oh, okay. I was about to say, what's happening here? Ooh, very nice. Let's see here. All right, just cleaning up that mask, making sure it's pointing in all the right directions. All right, what's happening here? Oh, just extending it down, just to the right point. Alrighty, now let's see what happens here. What are we doing? Are we creating a vertebrae? A mechanical looking vertebrae? Ooh. All right, remove that other mask that's unnecessary to have at the moment. All right, looks like we're going to go to the extract tool underneath the subtool menu. All right, we've extracted it out. We're going to do a little bit of Z remesh and then splitting it based on group by normals. That way we can split that front off, get it into a single plane, and then doing a little bit of highlighting here in the zmodeler brush. I'm not exactly sure why the video captured this in black, but hey, it still gets the point across. We are going to delete these sections that we have highlighted here. You'll see that here in just a few seconds. All right. Delete individual vertebrae down the back. I didn't necessarily count them to see if they were anatomically correct, but hey, after all, this is an AI, right? Looking slick, very nice. Fantastic. All right, let's move on here. We've got some rib pieces. We're going to remove a few because I think less is more in this instance. Doing a little bit of reorganization on the subtool list here. And let's see how this turns out. Yes, quick little turn, and it looks good. All right, on to the neck armor piece here. We're going to Z remesh just to minimize the amount of polygons that we have to work with. A few adjustments with the slide brush in the zmodeler menu and splitting that neck armor. All right, looks like we're down between the legs, doing some adjustments on the thigh armor, just making sure everything's in the right place. All righty. Might have been lingering in this position a little longer than necessary, but you get the idea. We just want to make sure this is nice and clean. We don't want anything colliding with the body. After all, this isn't a video game character where the armor can collide with the body. This is going to be for a real human being. No, before you ask, you can't print this for your girlfriend. This is actually for a client. I will not be releasing these files on Patreon like I do every month. With many other files, sometimes you'll get even 2 and 3 files for your Patreon subscription. Definitely check the link below if you're interested in checking that out. I submit files to my Patreon every month for y'all to 3D print and have for yourself. All right, we're going to refine these areas around the knees. That way movement is free. Remove a few little extra polygons there, make a few rounded corner adjustments, and then we will go ahead and split the armor into various panels to make it look a little bit more accurate to what potentially a mechanical AI would look like. Crisping up all these edges with crease and constraints along the edge borders. On the back side of the thighs now. Taking care of the same process. Freaking ZBrush auto saves drive me crazy. All right, let's see. Now we are on the shin pieces of the armor. We're going to mimic that same design from the thigh armor above, making sure that whenever somebody is wearing this, they have plenty of movement with their leg. All right, a few little more pieces we need to remove here. A few adjustments, then we're going to go into creasing the edges, rounding off the corners, and splitting these panels apart. Moving on to down around the ankle, splitting the panels, removing a few extra poly loops that we don't need, just to keep this as simple of a mesh as possible. I imagine for those out there that are trying to create armor for video games could probably learn a lot based upon the low polygon mode that this suit of armor is in, even when it is in a high resolution. Let's see what we can do with these knee pads. We're going to split them into separate parts so that they have maximum movement, so that if they're dancing on stage, they're not going to have to worry about their knees binding up. All right, a little extraction there, separating it into its own subtool. Doing a little bit of snap to point. Oh my goodness, what in the world? Oh, we centered the part in space. Okay, I didn't know what was happening. A little bit more refinement, moving it over back to where the knee is. Look at those sweet, sweet knee pads. A little bit more refinement before we can move on and split these parts into multiples. A little bit of highlighting and deletion. Look at that, and it's done. Maybe a little mirror and weld. And look at that, we've got two now. Oh, look at that elbow. Let's see what we can do here. Going to mimic the same shape that we did on the knee pad just to keep the armor nice and consistent. Little extraction, extracted a little more than we needed to. That's all right. We will auto group and group split into separate subtools. That way we can delete that extra vertebrae down the back. And apparently the smudge that came from who knows where. Oh my goodness. What is happening? All right, a little bit of movement. Adjusting this subtool. Oh, golly. Now we are going to stitch these parts together and mirror and weld. Not just on Z, but also on Y. Correction, not Z, but X. All right, a few little adjustments here. Refinement to the elbow pad. And we will split it into different sections here in a few seconds after we get this elbow put back where it is meant to be. Inserting some poly loops, highlighting what we don't want, deleting it, and going to mirror and weld to the other side. And just like that, voila, the elbows are done. It looks like we need to make some adjustments with the forearm armor here. Just using the move brush in polyframe mode, just to make sure everything is exactly where it needs to be. I'm speeding this up because I know y'all don't want to watch it. If y'all have any questions about any of this, please comment below. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I definitely have other videos on the channel that are a lot more in-depth. Show a step-by-step in real time how to do things, show you all my mess-ups, all the problems, so that if you want to watch a 5-hour video, you're more than welcome to. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Jeez. Now onto these sexy hands. Let's see what happens here. Looks like we're going to make some basic hand armor pieces. Just highlighting the points on the fingers where we want to have pieces of armor, extracting them, accepting them, and turning them into their own subtool. And there you have it, a full-blown AI humanoid robot suit of armor. Thanks for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate y'all being here. If you have any questions, let me know. Check out the Patreon and the links below, as well as all my social media. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.